if you're not already following Russ, you certainly should on X at Russ NFL Draft, NFL Draft Analyst, Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, does stuff for the Lions Wire. Also content with Scott, like I said. Him and Scott do great stuff. Detroit Lions podcast, that is Mr. Russell Brown. Russ, what's going on, brother?
Not a whole lot, fellas. How are you guys?
Good, man. Sorry, I don't know why I just did that. It's a hell of an entrance.
Whoa.
Hey, let's talk though, Russ. You have to do that for special people. That you get one of those. Let me ask you, because I asked Scott this, and I would love to pick your brain on a player, and it's a player that I really do like. I think he's going to be excellent. But there's a lot of these off-the-field questions with certain guys in the draft, and I already asked Scott. I'd love to ask you, how do you feel about a player like James Pierce, who's so athletically gifted? He tests amazing. The pass rush win rate's ridiculous. I mean, 23%. That's ridiculous in the SEC. But then you look at the weight, you look at the attitude, and people, like, these are rumors that people are happy he left Tennessee. What do you make of a guy like that who could be in the teens? Could that be someone, in your opinion, the Lions should go up and grab? Or are you out?
I mean, it's hard for me to gauge because I don't know the player personally, right? Like, I look at him and I'm like, I'm with you. I see an explosive athlete, a guy that can come out and win. He can turn the corner. He dips and rips. He does so many different things. But the things that I struggle with is the off the field stuff. And I look at it and I'm like, this is a guy that is going to be uncoachable. That's everything that I'm hearing out of the combine. That's everything I'm hearing from scouts that talked with the personnel at Tennessee. That's the same thing I'm hearing from certain agents that not necessarily rep him, but are very close with people that are around him and rep for him. So it's really tough for me to gauge because I want to believe in the kid because I love the tape. And going into the season, he was a top 5 player. And then there were times where he wasn't on the field and he was like a sub third down type of pass rusher periodically in certain games. And it's a really odd evaluation. And then you hear like the potential anger problems off the field. And it's like, I want my pass rusher to be wired a little bit differently. I want him to be angry, but I just don't know if the Lions can afford on gambling on a first round pick like that. Like we saw what last year's class was, right? We had Tyron Arnold. It was pretty good, but then Ennis Rakestraw didn't do much. Giovanni Manu didn't do anything. Sion Vaki's fine for special teams, but he didn't really provide much offense. So it's like, you need something to hit here in the first round. You need an impact guy. And I know that's hard to do at pick 28, but at least an impact as far as being a part of the rotation, being a part of the depth. And I don't know if Pierce is going to be able to be on the field. You look at the combine, there were times that he had to go through drills 2 or 3 times to be coached up. And I think that stems to that uncoachable stuff. So I don't know what it's going to be with him moving forward. I would be okay with it, I guess. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to be on the Lions radar.
What do you think at 28? I know you said they're kind of just impactful players at 28. A couple guys, like for me, and the chat's going to think it's funny, but I bring it up every time. Donovan Ezeiruaku. I love him. I think he's going to be a very good option at 28. If you were picking at 28 and you're Brad Holmes and you're looking for a guy that's going to make an impact like instantly and in a rotation, who would you pick, Russ?
Yeah, I think Donovan Ezeiruaku would be definitely a guy that makes a lot of sense in my recent mock draft that I do, every Monday, Tuesday on the Lions Wire. He was my first round pick because coming out of the combine, he's the guy that I've heard the most as being a for sure first round pick. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's not, but like that he will be, but it really sounds like he's going to be. And it's just like, I don't know if he's going to be on the board at 28. I look at Tampa potentially at 19. I look at the Packers possibly, maybe even Minnesota. Some of these teams that just recoup, continue to take defensive linemen. He feels like one of those guys, but I love the skill set. He's got great length, 34-inch arms, 6'2", 248, can play with leverage. He's another guy that can turn the corner. He's got some bendiness to him. What I like the most is just that length and being able to create separation. So he's able to win at the point of attack by creating that separation, and then he can counter back inside or work his way outside. That's important for the Lions. Now, there were times at the Senior Bowl, Ariante Ursere, he got the best of him at times, and he gets engulfed by bigger guys, bigger blockers and things like that. But at the same time, this is a guy that you're bringing in to rush the passer. He's going to get one-on-one reps a lot because of what Aiden Hutchinson is going to provide on the other side. So I would be fine with it. And I would be like okay, we're good. I don't got to worry about off the field stuff. He's getting praised for his leadership, his character, his willingness to learn. He really fits everything that the Lions are looking for in a pass rusher and really just a player and a person. So I'm on board with him 100%. And again, I just hope that he's there at 28 because everything I'm hearing, he's probably going to be gone. There's chatter that he's going to jump James Pierce, Mike Green, and get down in like that Shamar Stewart level of being like a top 15, top 20 pick.
Well, Russ, you just pretty much alluded to my next question. All I've been hearing about after the combine from a lot of Detroit Lions fans is Shamar Stewart, Shamar Stewart, Shamar Stewart. My opinion, if Shamar Stewart was somehow there in the second round, which there's no way he will be, I'm comfortable there. But in the first round, 4.5 sacks, Super Bowl contending team that needs a defensive end now, I'm cool on Shamar Stewart in the first round. But I see you're tapped in on all these prospects. I see all the deep dives you do on film. What do you make of the Shamar Stewart situation going on right now?
I love the player. I mean, the lack of production is obviously a little scary, a little worrisome, but I love the player because he's got the length. He's got just that size and that frame, a player that can really grow and blossom at the next level. I mean, sub 270 is 267 pounds at 6'5", 34.5-inch arms. Like there's a lot to like with Shamar Stewart. And when you watch him on tape, it even flashes even more. I mean, he's a guy that has a great get off. He works his hands. He has ability to long arm and bull rush the opposition. There's just always that split second where he doesn't get there. And it's like, okay, at some point he's going to get there. And I think if he got to a place like Detroit, it would be phenomenal because he'd be playing next to DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, and the combination of guys that we have up front. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to be there. Like I said, I think he's a guy that put himself in that top 15 category. You look at Atlanta at 15. He makes a lot of sense there. Chicago, what are they doing, right? Like they've added 2 offensive linemen. I don't think Ashton Genty's going to be there. I know that's what everybody's talking about. So I don't think he's going to be there. Do they pivot to the defensive line and they take a player like Stewart to pair with Montez Sweat? Dallas, DeMarcus Lawrence is a free agent. They got a lot of guys that they got to figure out the cap space. So I just wonder, there's a lot of fits for Shamar Stewart and the potential that he provides a defense. So I love him, but I just don't think he's going to be there.
Yeah, Russ, I want to ask you, man, some sleepers here. I mean, Brad Holmes, he goes BPA. So we talk about an edge. It might even be like some other player no one's expecting. But let's say hypothetically they don't take an edge in the first round. Is there any guys past that you really love that the Lions could go scoop up that could be like day 2 sleepers?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few guys. I don't know where Landon Jackson falls. He might be a borderline guy for the first round as a 28th overall pick, but I like him quite a bit. He had a great combine, 40.5-inch vertical, which was the highest of any edge rusher. Granted, not every edge rusher participated, but he would make a lot of sense for them as far as like that traditional build that they're looking for, 6'4", 6'5", 265, 270 pounds. They want guys that can hold their own at the point of attack and help stop the run and do those types of things. Landon Jackson can do that. He's one of those guys that I think plays a little too high. He exposes too much of his chest. So when you get chest to chest, I mean, you're dead to rights when you're a defensive lineman, but he can definitely create separation. And if at any point he falls down the draft board and maybe somewhere around round 2, you move up and get a guy like that, he makes a ton of sense in my opinion. But just moving kind of beyond that, I really like Tyler Barron from Miami, Florida. I thought he had a really good Shrine Bowl week, 6'4", 251. He's one of those guys that seems to play really stout against the run, but additionally, he's a guy that can go rush the passer. And I'm really curious where he would fit in a place like Detroit, not necessarily like Josh Paschal because he's not 265, 270, but he's one of those guys that would be a nice rotational piece with him. So I think if you're looking later in the draft, you're finding guys that can rotate with Zadarius Smith and Josh Paschal and stuff like that. Outside of that, Femi Oladuje, I'm probably butchering that, the guy from UCLA. Mel Kiper had him in a first-round mock. I will say this is a guy that is a little rough around the edges. He just got moved to the defensive end position. He was an off-ball linebacker. But if the Lions are looking for like a true Sam linebacker and a guy that they can bump down into a 5 or a 4-eye, this might be that guy. And they can do a lot with him. He really popped on the tape when I put on UCLA, and I saw him in the first round. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to put him on and I'm going to watch him because he wasn't on my radar and I just couldn't stop watching him. So I look at him as maybe a day 2 pick as like a second or a third round guy, but he could end up being a borderline first round player as well because of what he can do against the run and the versatility that he provides. And then just the last guy, you guys know I could go forever, but Jordan Birch from Oregon is
Come
the
on
other.
now.
Oh.
Come on, Russ.
Wow.
Hey, real quick before you answer this, Russ, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you view Jordan Birch as a top 10 defensive end in this class?
Yes, I do. I think he's a top 50 player in this draft. He's exactly like at 48 or 49 on my big board. I really love the skill set for him to be 6'6", 275, 280 range, and to have that bend and that ability to turn the corner is really something different from a lot of guys in this class. I don't know why he's not getting talked about as much, maybe because he's not as effective in the ground game as he is when he's rushing the passer. But I love his skill set, and I think he's a guy that if he was there at 60, you're sprinting to the podium and you're like Jordan Birch, edge out of Oregon, especially if you didn't take one in the first round. But even if they double down at the position, I'm fine with it.
Hey, Russell, I do want to bring this up too, because I feel like this is a big in the Lions world right now. I'm sure you saw it, the whole Carlton Davis tweet from yesterday. At corner, though, I know last year it was first, second round corner. Do you see the Lions at some point in this draft saying, hey, we need to figure out another corner and find a guy who can maybe contribute right away? And if so, is there anyone in this draft you think outside of the first round that the Lions can look at and say, yep, that could be a guy who can come into this defense and make a play?
I think it's definitely on their radar. I think they would definitely want Carlton Davis back. It just depends on, what that dollar amount's going to be. I think that they would be comfortable paying him at like $11 or $12 million per year. I'm going to guess he's probably going to want $14 or $15 million a year. Maybe they can meet in the middle, do some type of bonus structure. But even if they don't do that, I'd be curious if they added a veteran somewhere. Paulson Adebo from New Orleans, he's going to probably hit the open market. So I would keep tabs on him. And if not him, maybe Asante Samuel Jr. would love that just because his dad was a great player. But looking into the draft, if you were looking at day 3, Quincy Riley from Louisville, his defensive back coach is always in my ear telling me about him and how he's a great kid. And when you watch the tape, you're looking at a really fluid athlete, a kid that can open his hips and run with receivers. And he shows that he's got the long speed, but he gets a little feisty. And I think, Brad Holmes is going to like that. He's kind of like that defensive back savant, if you will. He kind of mentioned that last year during the trade deadline. So I look at Quincy Riley as a guy maybe that he would really like and he would really push for. And if not that guy, Noah Williams out of Cal. Physical press man corner, great length. He jams and redirects receivers a bunch. He was down at the Shrine Bowl. He had a pretty good week down there. I would think he would be in that 3rd, 4th round range. The same thing for Quincy Riley. So any one of those guys would make a lot of sense. Outside of that, I don't think I would be taking a Denzel Burke. He's just a little too inconsistent out of Ohio State for me. And some of these other guys, these guys are going to go fast. Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Ravel, Azare Thomas, Ben Morrison, Barron, Maxwell Harrison, and Dorian Strong. All these guys are probably going to be off the board by the time they even get to 60s. So it's unfortunate if they really wanted to take one. They might have to take him a little bit sooner if we're talking about some of the bigger names.
Staying with the defense here, kind of similar question to Booner asked with the cornerbacks, but now moving to linebacker. When you look at the linebacker situation, going to be up in the air to see what happens with Derek Barnes, but I would assume even if Derek Barnes returns, the Lions would still be looking at an option to upgrade. You just look at that depth. They got wiped out with injuries last year. Are there any ones that stick out to you again, round or day 2, day 3? I know they met with guys like Jay Higgins out of Iowa. Who pops off on tape to you that you think would be a great fit to be either depth to Derek Barnes or replace Derek Barnes?
Come on, Barrett Carter, Russ. Little Barrett Carter. Come on.
Yeah, you could definitely go with him, but I was going to go with Smail Mondon out of Georgia. He's a little bit smaller. He doesn't necessarily fit that Derek Barnes role, but he looked really fluid at the combine on the field. He's 6'2", 224. Maybe you can do some shuffling around with Malcolm Rodriguez and Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone. You bring a guy like this in, he could play more of that will, and he can cover. But even if he was to play as the Sam and you bring him down in the box, okay, he can cover tight ends. He can cover slot receivers. And as we saw, like with James Houston, he got beat on that wheel route and got hurt, and it kind of was the end of him. Well, maybe you put a guy like Smail Mondon on there who can run. He's got some of that speed, but he's just really fluid in space, and he was a guy that always caught my eye. And then the other one, Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. If Dan Campbell isn't licking his chops when he sees this guy play, I don't know. This guy, just looks like an old school linebacker. He's always around the football, always sniffing around there. He's got a bunch of arm braces on, sleeves. He looks like like a create a player off of Madden, but a lot to like with him down in the box. He jams offensive linemen. He redirects tight ends off their routes, and he comes down and plays physical in the run game. So I think Stutzman and Munden would make a lot of sense. I would keep tabs on Carson Schlesinger, though, from UCLA. That's a guy that every time you pop on UCLA's tape, I know it would probably be like a first-round pick type of deal or maybe trade back and take him, but he's a guy that just screams Detroit Lions because of the effort and the high motor ability that he has.
Love that. Yeah, I'm Danny Stutzman. I'm locked in.
You got to lock him in, dude.
Yeah.
He was at the combine, wasn't he, Russ?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I'm pretty sure I was thinking of who it was, but yeah, no, he looked. When you talk about a Dan Campbell guy, you were correct. What you watched that man, like, hey, he's not moving the quickest, but he's moving with some fucking passion. You can just tell he's a gritty type of linebacker. So I'd be all for it.
Yeah. No, you sold me at arm braces. I'm in. I know. I appreciate you as always, Russ, taking time, man. I know you got a busy schedule joining the fellas here. Follow Russ on X at Russ NFL Draft. Does great work. Russ, we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, fellas, we'll talk to you.
There you go. Russ Brown, taking time.
Appreciate it, Russ.
Doing some great stuff. I'm gonna be honest, I did not know Danny Stutzman. Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, FisherCTSports.com.